We're live. Happy Friday, last Friday of September.
Ow.
Welcome to the IT hour. I know how. Where did September go? Oh, it is almost time to wake our friends.
Yes, Billy Joe needs to wake up on Monday. We need to wake him up
That's
when
right.
September ends.
That's right. We
So
got
I
to
was
do
going to say,
that. So mark your calendar.
yep, that's right. I am definitely a participant in the social network called Tumblr. And September 30th is a Tumblr holiday, along with, various and sundry days, like the perfect date, which is somewhere in the middle of April where you only need a light jacket. And of course, wake
I
me up when
jacket.
September ends is of course a big piece of that. So
Hmm.
I was going to say there's Tumblr holidays are my favorite holidays because they are entirely made up, and they're just the social network gets to be its own adventure at that point.
The 21st, starting to play Earth, Wind, and Fire and dancing around
Oh
the
yes, well, and
September.
we had those series of videos that were done over the couple of years where it was an absolutely beautiful tribute to to Earth, Wind, and Fire, who are, it as it happens, absolutely amazing, and I'm thrilled that I've had the opportunity to see them twice. And I was going to say, September 21st, is another one of those great days. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Kelly saying last day of April too, because it's going to be May.
Of
So
course.
lots of fun holidays like that. But I need to take a somber moment, and then we can get back to the frivolity, because we need to take a quick moment of silence for Maggie Smith, because may she rest in peace.
Indeed.
Uh, just found out about that this morning, and what an amazing actress. And
Incredible career. And like I was going to say, I realized that I've been watching her my whole life without realizing it. Recently looking at all of the different movies that she's been in over the years. Of course, Clash of the Titans, where many a young nerd first saw her for the first time. And of course, the Harry Potter movies and Downton Abbey. And my favorite ever, GIF when I'm working late on a Friday. What is a weekend? I was going to say. So, R.I.P. Dame Maggie,
yeah,
and thank you for everything. So,
yeah, what a great lady. Um, just so many things. I think, was she also in the Yayas? I want to say she was one of the older ladies in the Yayas too, but I'll have to Yaya Sisterhood, but I'll have to double check on
I
because
don't
there were
think I've
some.
seen that one. I'm not sure I'm the target audience for that one.
Mm, got James Garner in it and everything. I mean, it's just
Oh, well, so
it's wonderful. Okay, so now thank you all for joining us. We're glad to have you, and of course we have friend of the show and a crowd favorite, I must say. Everybody loves having Tom on the show. Oh, Kelly says yes. See, Kelly's my movie person. When I can't remember something, she jumps in, and she's my memory sometimes. So even if you're not quite the audience, Tom, you should really see it, because it has such good lines in it. It's got Ashley Judd as the young mom. It's got James Garner as the dad, the older dad, and of course, just some wonderful actors in that. So let's see. What does the bottom of the crust on your shirt say, Tom?
it says identitatis in multis systemata, which means identity in multiple systems. So this was the commemorating T-shirt for Jump Cloud being able to federate with multiple identity providers and external identity providers. So this is one of my favorites. The team really was a broad team here at Jump Cloud that worked hard on this project, and we had people from all over Jump Cloud working on Federation, and this was last year. So I was going to say, I've got my great T-shirt. I love it. It's one of my faves. So we love a good Latinate slogan, here. So and we've got some good ones over the years. So.
Ross says, very nice. I have to say it, very nice, whenever I hear that.
I
And
realized that I couldn't come up with the name, and it was Demi Adejuyigbe, who made the September 21st videos. He's made 6. And I was going to say, I'm posting a great link to an NPR story about him. He made these incredible viral videos about September 21st, starting with Earth, Wind, and Fire. So it's one of my faves.
that's right. I've seen a few of them, but I forgot. I don't think I watched the last couple of them. I need to do that. And then Stuart says, sounds like Star Trek. So
little bit, of course we were making the, that this is definitely the Federation logo, right? Like with the crest, because that's on the outside of the United Federation of Planets logo. Definitely a nod. So definitely not. And to answer James's question, are these the USB-C AirPods Max? No, they are not. I'm still rolling Lightning. This is my last remaining Lightning device. But there really wasn't a great update there for these for the new USB-C AirPods Max. They're just different colors and a switch and a swapped out port. I was hoping for more, but I'll wait for another 4 years until they're revved again.
I still have the Pros, and they're probably only first or second gen, so I haven't
Yes.
updated it in a while either. So
Well,
just hanging on to them until I drop my case every once in a while and they go flying. So
yep.
whenever they go flying so far that I can't find one, then that's probably when I probably just jinxed myself. So
yeah, no, hopefully not. But yeah, I did, say, with a fair amount of appreciation for Apple's September event, the Glow Time event, as someone who worked in the concert industry for a very long time without proper hearing aids, or proper sound dampening technologies, I do have some hearing loss, and I'm really excited that when I wear my AirPods Pro version, the second gen, I can actually get some benefit from hearing protection when I'm at a show. And I went this past weekend to go see Death Cab for Cutie and the Postal Service, the last ever Postal Service concert, at Nationals Park, and I used them in transparency mode with reducing loud sounds, and they are absolutely magical in the field. They are just tremendous. So, I think that there are a lot of really, great options out there for folks, especially now that they can be used as over-the-counter hearing aids. That was something that got approved last week. They can be treated as over-the-counter, hearing aids. That's due to a new law that was passed by Congress and signed by President Biden, that allowed for organizations who are making technology like this not have to be a $5,000 medical device, but you can do an over-the-counter hearing aid with acoustic technologies like the AirPods Pro. So really psyched for that. And, I was going to say it's pretty great. So especially as somebody who gets some hearing loss, thanks to too many times near a very loud set of speakers.
yeah, I've been noticing some tinnitus. I think that's how you say it
Yep.
recently. And I did not notice it until someone said something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I am noticing some ringing. And I swear all of a sudden it was like there when it wasn't before because I didn't think about it. And then I started noticing when it was really quiet that I was hearing this ringing. So I may do the same thing because I am noticing just a little bit of, even though I've been somewhat careful over the years, and I take my loops with me to any and every concert now, because they're more comfortable than actual uh, plugs. They're just way more comfortable. But still, just when you're a teenager, you don't do that stuff. So same thing. So I may wind up doing the same thing as getting those, because if I can also use them to enhance those ranges where I'm struggling when there's background noise and stuff, then that would be be great. Yeah, I like what Kelly's saying here about talking about the pros, and a lot of people who might not have enough hearing loss might still benefit from the new options. And I think that's me. It's only like certain ranges,
Yes.
usually, like people's voices, but when there's a lot of background noise, it's really when there's competing sounds that I have trouble. Like when it's quiet, I can still hear super high pitched sounds really well, and other things. But when there's a lot of noise is when it causes trouble.
Yep, for sure. And that's one of the other new features of iOS 18, is that they're going to be adding hearing tests. And so you can actually take a hearing test with your AirPods Pro, and then use that hearing test to change the audio profile of your AirPods Pro so that it will better enhance things. So very, very awesome.
So Kelly knows what speakers you're talking about, and they are full human size.
They are very
Wow.
huge. Now, there's a trend in concert hall design that has two very tall stacks, and by tall I mean like it's a series of speakers, but the whole stack tends to be about 30 feet high, and they're two stacks, one stack, and they're suspended from the ceiling of the venue, so that they are not subject to the vibrations of the room around it. And they have acoustic dampening, to keep them from vibrating away. But yeah, you get some really, really amazing sound out of these sound designs that have been made over the last few years. And so the acoustic design world is really, really fascinating. And yes, Becky, we will use literally anything except for the metric system. Although I am going to be spending 2 weeks outside of the US, and I'm really looking forward to doing my on-the-fly translation between Celsius and Fahrenheit, because that is my secret superpower. So
I cannot do it at all, but I will sometimes switch my what the forecast to Celsius just for fun, so that I can
you got
look
some
and see
experience.
between the two
Yep.
different apps, because otherwise I can't do it on the fly. I have to switch apps to be able to do it. I did see, going back a little bit, I do see some chitter chatter about swag, and I think it was Stuart that was saying he was behind on his swag. Heads up that at the end of October, we will have our spooky stories again. So I'm just giving you a heads up that if you're, feeling a little bit low on the swag, to make sure you're there for that, because we will have our usual spooky stories and some prize giveaways like we normally do. And I may just make a point of, in addition to, giving away some money gift cards, I might go ahead and put in some swag so that you can stock up. So don't forget your scary IT stories, and get those ready. You got a whole month, and then we'll have that coming. Yes, Ross, dinosaur onesie.
Oh
Make sure
my.
that everybody gets to see that, because you may have to actually wear it, and then we'll bring you up on stage so people can see it. All
I
right,
love it.
let's see. Oh yeah, Kelly's saying, talking concerts. Weird Al is touring next summer, and tickets are on sale today in your
Yes,
region. I did see that he's coming to the Raleigh area.
he is going to be here in DC as well. He's going to be out at Wolf Trap, the the National Park for the Performing Arts. I may or may not have signed up for a fan club just so that I can get early access to tickets. So Charlie's birthday is tomorrow, and he's getting three lawn tickets for his birthday. So we're going to go as a family. I'm really looking forward to it. So there's a lot of love in this house for Weird Al. We are very fond of the accordion master. So
All
plus, I
right.
hear he puts on a really great live show.
I have not seen him in
I
concert
was gonna say I have not
ever.
either. I've They did a on the, what was it, the 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary of the release of UHF. He and Emo Phillips did a live interview in front of them playing the movie. And it was very full at Lincoln Theater here in DC. And it was really funny because they were not expecting the crowd to know the movie as well as we did, to the point where we hushed them because they were talking when we got to Badgers. Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers. And the audience was really into that moment. And they were like, wow, you guys really know this movie. And then they told a very touching story about Raul, who was the actor who passed away during filming. And they'd originally had a much larger role planned for him, and he ended up in a much smaller role because he passed during filming. So it
Oh,
was a very fascinating interview set, but they were entirely unprepared for just how much everybody loved UHF. And I will say, if you have not had the pleasure of watching UHF, do find it on streaming. It is absolutely worth your time. It totally holds up. And, I just want a Twinkie Wiener sandwich now. So maybe that's what I'll make for lunch today.
okay. I have not seen it,
Oh,
sadly.
friend. Oh, you are one of the 1,000 people. Yeah, you're familiar with the XKCD. Like when folks haven't seen something, oh, you are in for a treat. This movie is wild. It is absolutely unhinged. It should have won all of the awards, but unfortunately, due to release schedules and things like that, it was up against some pretty hard and it flopped. And but it is absolutely hysterical, and one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, I might just have some free time this weekend, so I'll see if I can find it. I will go a
Fantastic.
looking. All right, and with that, um, oh, look at that. We've got some links in here.
Oh yes.
Let's see. Weird Al comedy, basically a full movie of that. Well, yeah, I do. There are times where, I mean, I loved all of Weird Al's wacky songs growing up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Eat It was probably one of the first ones I heard, I think. So yeah. Although now, now I probably think Eat It's a little problematic, but when I was younger,
Funny as
it
heck.
was,
Yep.
yeah,
Simpler times.
yeah, hmm absolutely. All right, so let me see here. Did we had a couple of community posts. Tom, this may just I may just send this directly to you. In product discussions, in Lester was asking about MDM on personal iPhones, like
Yes.
trying to separate between personal and work items. That's
Absolutely.
on that's on the community.
And I'm really love to hear from folks who are actually doing this today. We do offer support for what Apple calls user enrollment. And that's the way to have an MDM enrollment where you can have a few, but not a lot, of policy controls over devices that you don't own. And so most of MDM is meant for company-owned devices. And so here at JumpCloud, if you're enrolling a phone that's in Apple Business Manager via automated device enrollment, you get a very different experience than you might managing a device that, like this one, for example. This is Tom Bridges' iPhone. I pay the hard-earned money for this. JumpCloud doesn't get to control my phone. But there are some tools that I might want on my device, including, and forgive the laundry if you can hear that in the background. I did not mean to have the happy laundry song, but there we go. But you can get apps delivered to personal phones, and they live in a work partition on the device. They live in a separate APFS volume on the iPhone. And you can deliver apps to that partition if they're not already present on the device. And so if you've got a set of apps that you use for work stuff, I know here at JumpCloud, we use Jira and Confluence and, a bunch of different apps like that. I can get those pushed by my IT department directly to my iOS device. And today we offer what's called profile-based user enrollment, but in about a week and a half, you're going to be able to just sign in with a managed Apple account and get enrolled in a BYO user enrollment without having to do anything more. You don't even have to go to the user portal and log in. You just sign in with that managed Apple account and you're done. And that gets you all the apps that you need for work. And they live in a special secure partition that you can control. They live in a really great experience. And if you're doing this at work today, I'd love for folks to contribute to this thread. Finding out exactly how this works is going to be really important. I put a couple of links in that thread for different guides that we have today. We're working on a bigger guide that's going to talk about federating your managed Apple accounts and using using account-driven user enrollment to just sign in on your personal devices. I know that I'm really excited about that because right now, this brand new spanking phone doesn't support profile-based user enrollment anymore because that's been deprecated in iOS 18. But in about a week, I'll be able to sign in directly with my managed Apple account at JumpCloud and get all of the apps that Ryan has assigned to my device. And I'm really excited about that because then we can do some really cool things with JumpCloud Protect on your mobile device and get full passwordless access to your devices. And we all know how painful it is to type a long password on that tiny little on-screen keyboard. I know I screw it up more often than I don't. And so the fewer times that I have to authenticate on a local device and just have JumpCloud Protect handle it for me, pretty bueno. So I'm kind of excited about that. So
The number of times I have fat-fingered a password on that little tiny keyboard, even though I think I'm hitting the right one, so annoying. Can't even tell you.
Yep, I'm here for that.
Yeah. The other one on community real quick is just Boone, I think this may be the first script they have committed. It's the script GUI for install JumpCloud Agent and bind the user to a Windows device. And they shared a script for that. So thank you, Boone, for contributing. And we've got whatever Tom is going to talk about now because we've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of things that I want to talk about in product release land. And the first two are mainly just reminders. If you have not yet set up MFA on your admin accounts, we're going to make you. And you may have noticed when you log into the admin portal, you may be getting a really intrusive pop-up that says, hey, please set this up. It's no longer optional as of Monday. So please, if you haven't had a chance, go set up MFA with all your admin accounts. It's very, very important that you set this up. Today, that involves using a TOTP code generator. Don't worry. We're focused on making this possible with JumpCloud Go or YubiKeys in the future. But for now, we really want to make sure that your admin credentials are really protected with an MFA TOTP code generator. So take this opportunity. If you're using JumpCloud Password Manager, we support it right within the Password Manager. Or if you're using another password manager that can scan a QR code, that's what we're really after here. So please take a moment, protect your admin accounts. The folks who have those admin accounts have been getting emails from us about this. This is not optional. So we really want to make this the most secure platform that you can use. And so please go ahead and do this starting Monday. You'll be required to. The other thing that I'm really excited about and that I've been using internally here at JumpCloud for the last couple of weeks is that when I authenticate to my device, it updates my JumpCloud Go user token, which means I never have to log in at the user portal ever again because I've already typed my password. We're using what's called device as a gateway here at JumpCloud. And that means your secured device and your secured user on your secured device takes advantage of all of the things that we know about you as the end user. And we want to make it easy because you're a managed user on a managed device and you're using JumpCloud Go. So beginning on Monday, with the next version of the agent, you're going to be able to essentially automatically authenticate to all of the things that you do for JumpCloud. And we're just going to take care of that for you. It's going to happen behind the scenes. You're just going to get logged right in. Everything is smooth and easy. Anything that you access via the JumpCloud user portal will be an automatic login cycle. You won't even have to authenticate again. If you change your password, that may change. So I was going to say there are 3 things that will cause your refresh token to be reset. Password reset, whether it's admin led or user led, is one of those things. The second of those is if you take a really long vacation. And there, I mean, at least 2 weeks and just away from your work laptop. May I suggest doing this because it is a really good experience personally. I strongly recommend that folks take at least 2 weeks a year in a row off. If your life may support that, I hope that it does for your sake. But that would cause your token to become unregistered. And then also after every 90 days, we make you do this. So those are the kind of things that can cause that experience. And the other thing that can do it is if you log out of the user portal. But there's not a really great reason to log out. Formally go to the menu button and click log out unless you're on a machine that's not yours. So, that's one really great way to figure out how to go forward and do those things. So we're really excited about that. One other product announcement, and this is something that's in early access right now, and I'm really interested in feedback from folks. So we are working harder to, right now, we all know that password resets are a terrible experience to the end user, right? Like I've forgotten my password. I can't get in any place. And of course, they provide a lot of work for end user admins as well. So folks like, anybody here. Beginning with this past week's agent release, there's a feature we can turn on for you, and we're considering making this the default, especially as it's saving us time and effort internally and for a couple of key customers. We're more than happy to talk with folks about this. If your user has forgotten their previous keychain, if, for example, they took those 2 weeks and went to Bali, or even just stayed home and looked blankly at the wall for 2 weeks as a method of recovery. Don't worry, I'm not saying that I've done this recently, but I was going to say, doing those things may cause you to forget your password. If you forget your keychain password on a Mac, your keychain has to be reset, and losing your keychain means losing all of your Safari data, means losing all of your Touch ID data, means losing all of your Wi-Fi networks. It's really messy and really painful. We've got the option now to do what's called macOS Keychain Protection. And so the idea is when you reset somebody's password, we can reset their keychain too. So if you're interested in learning more about this, drop me an email. I'm tom.bridge@jumpcloud.com. We can turn it on for your organization and give you a chance to learn from this experience. If you have people who forget their passwords all the time and work on Macs, we would love to talk with you. Either find me in the Slack lounge or drop me an email. We'd be delighted to turn this on. We're seeing a massive decrease in the number of painful password resets that are happening as part of this, at least in our early research. And I'd love to research with more folks. So please drop me an email if you want me to turn this on for your Macs. And we're more than happy to talk with you about how it works and all of these other things, but not right here. I think that's not what today's for. But that's all of our product releases and announcements today. We're about halfway through. Do we want to spend a little bit of time talking about the big topics of the day, Becky, or how do we want to talk about Apple stuff?
Well, first, I want to address Nathan's question about, is there any way to block the use of the new Apple Passwords app to help ensure users are actually using company-approved password managers, such as JumpCloud Password Manager?
So the answer is not today, no. And it's really funny because my chat bar has totally stopped in Crowdcast. So I was going to say, I'm going to ask you to flash me up questions as you get them. So I don't have a way for us to today block that passwords application. Apple hasn't made it part of the MDM specification. So what we can say is discouraging your users is an appropriate way of doing that, and just say, hey, look, here at JumpCloud, here at your company, we really support using the JumpCloud Password Manager. And that's where you should store your credentials. And we don't think there's any security harm in storing passwords in the Passwords app, especially because you do control with your MDM settings what they can and can't store in iCloud, and that includes passwords by setting restrictions. So, you have some options there. We're definitely very interested in feature requests that, block access to system tools like passwords. So I will say that would be a great feature request to send us if you haven't already.
Oh, yeah. Nathan's one of our prolific requesters, so he definitely knows. But Stuart also had that question, so that was a good one. And let's see. Brandon just says, we have so many cases where users get confused on the previous keychain issues. So what you were saying just a little bit ago.
Yep.
Um,
Well, and as part of the agent updates that we made for this, you will notice different text in the tray application and at the main login window that works to make this more clear. We are definitely open to more corrections on those fronts. So that those changes don't need to be turned on for your org. We've updated the text for everyone to make this more clear. So please, as you go through password reset cycles, take a look at these, help us vet those changes. And if you feel like they're still unclear, drop me an email or find me on the Slack lounge.
and Nathan had some clarification. It's more about compliance and using approved systems. So yeah,
Of
I
course.
can see that.
I totally hear that. And I was going to say it's a place where we don't have a great way to do that today without being very violent on the system, which is to say Apple doesn't provide us with an MDM restriction that says don't store those things. What we can do at that point is encourage people to use company issued browsers like Chrome, for example, and in concert with pushing the password manager extension to those devices. That's one way you can really control the browsing experience. If they're using native tools like Safari, we might have to operate at a much more surgical level, and that surgery can be painful, especially if we are trying to kill Safari and or trying to kill the passwords application. That may have different effects. We're experimenting right now, but we're very interested to talk to people about how concerned they are.
Totally, totally. I think, let me double check. Nathan says we don't advocate for violence unless it's to fix Apple, quote, oversights and omissions, end quote, in admin control.
May I suggest that the powers of persuasion are best applied using, especially, having visited Apple Park, I'll tell you the Apple Park is very good. So keep that in mind too.
All right.
Well, should we
I'm not
talk a little bit
sure.
about those fall releases from Apple? Because
Yes, although I'm not sure if you're freezing or if it's me.
I feel like it might be mine. If you want to talk for just 30 seconds, I'm going to refresh this browser and see if maybe that might be the cause of both my frozen chat and the other things. I'll be back in just.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for confirming in the chat that that was Tom because I wasn't quite sure. Let's see here. Oh, Michael, allowing personal Apple ID login makes you feel violent. Well, I'm really sorry.
Well, Michael, I hear you on that front. Apple has been not given us full control of those kind of systems. And I was going to say the having personal, not being able to restrict personal Apple IDs from devices is certainly something that we have provided feedback on at Jump Cloud to Apple. Because we do think that you ought to be able to, on a company-owned device, limit the domain that can access that company device's, Apple ID park or Apple ID section on the operating system. So we have definitely provided that feedback, and we hope for more information from that. So I was going to say that is one place where we continue to push on our friends at Apple, and we hope for better feedback. And one of the things I think that is really important for Apple is to hear from people who have this problem directly. And so this is a great place for using Feedback Assistant and saying, hey, we work in a regulated industry, or we have private information, or our privacy policies say that we have to provide these, controls, and we don't want personally identifiable, Apple information associated with our Mac accounts or Mac devices. And so, that is a place where, we get to, we definitely want to make sure that we get those restrictions, and doing that requires end users to hit their Feedback Assistant button. So,
Hi, Macro.
yeah, I was going to say, you can now hear Macro, is hanging out over here, and you can see he's hanging out right there. There's the kitty. Mm-hmm. He's very loud today. Very interested in expressing his opinion.
Now my screen is doing something weird, and it has shrunk up to like this size. So now I'm going to just hit like refresh and see if it loads back properly. I tell you what, give me like 2 seconds.
I'm blaming the storm for this one. I think the hurricane is probably what's causing Becky's issues today. So that is definitely a very possible, situation here. So for anybody who is in the path of Hurricane Helene, we're thinking happy thoughts for you that no heavy duty rain and all sorts of things like that. So Kelly asks a really good question. Is it helpful for us to file feedback with JumpCloud so that you have that to take to Apple when we chat? It doesn't hurt. Your feedback will be associated with any kind of future effort that we approach here. But I think I think that is a part of the process. But definitely, as you have relationships with Apple, exploit them. We will do the same, and we oftentimes use customer impact statements that JumpCloud customers provide to us to share with our friends at Apple. So that is super helpful. Yes, and yeah, I was going to say, sorry, Nathan, I don't mean to troll you with my background, because I was going to say we clearly have the same LG washer, and now the kitty is yelling at me. Yes, Macro, you want to come see the people on the internet? This old man. So this is Macro. He's 17, so he's an old man. He gets to do what he wants.
He's just a little bit older than my oldest child and 1 year older than my oldest cat.
So. He is named after a photographic lens and not the Excel technology, mostly because of this pattern here. He's very photogenic, but you need a macro lens to capture all his detail. So that was the joke when he was a tiny kitten. So he became Macro. We had Macro and Bokeh for a time, and they were the photographic cats. And now he's going to cry because I put him down. But it was yes, okay, the saddest of kitties. But I was going to say, we are really excited here at JumpCloud. We did have formal day zero support for release day support for macOS 15 and iOS 18. We do have some new policies that are in play right now, and some more new policies that are coming as part of this. We've made some adoptions, of new technologies here at JumpCloud that have enabled us to do some more policy management tools here. And we're really excited about those policies coming out now. We will have a policy for Apple Intelligence as Apple Intelligence arrives. We're very excited to see how that can be applied to business. And there's going to be an actual upcoming webinar about how you can use Apple Intelligence with your business, or control it if you decide that that's the appropriate level of skepticism that you have about the new technology. And keep an eye on the JumpCloud website, as well as on the community, to take advantage of that opportunity. I've been doing a lot of research associated with the beta cycle this time. I'm actually really oddly super excited for this, because I'm usually a bit of an AI skeptic. I haven't necessarily found a piece of the large language model that I've really kind of adapted to or really appreciated. But a lot of the writing tools and a lot of the summarization and smarts that Siri has picked up so far with the early releases of Apple Intelligence have been really inspiring for me. And I really, really appreciate a lot of that information. Stuart asks a fantastic question. Tom, when are we releasing the new policies, especially around AI? Some of the policies we've already updated. Here, we made a major change to the system extensions policy, which governs security tools and other tools like that. If you update from macOS 14 to macOS 15, we now include a new setting inside those policies around system extensions not being removable from the UI. And this is a change in the result of Apple's new behaviors around system extensions. They had made a decision that some of the keys they had created for earlier versions of the operating system were not necessarily covering the right level of detail of user experience for corporate environments. I'm not sure they were right. But we appreciate the additional flexibility of having a new key in system extensions, which essentially prevents the end user from removing a system extension from their device through direct tampering. And so as a result, we've made those changes to the system extensions policy. We have a couple of other updates to other policies that have been updated as part of the MDM specification. And we will release the new AI policy before Apple releases the macOS 15.1 and iOS 18.1 updates. I don't have a specific date for you yet. We really can't talk about that. Apple does control a little bit of our release cycle here, but we will have those out ahead of time so that you can apply them to macOS 14 or macOS 15 systems, and we will make sure that they get updated before macOS 15.1 ships so that you don't have to worry about the delivery of those features. Keep in mind, Apple Intelligence is only available in the US at launch, and so keep that in mind. James asks a really fun question. I would love a policy that will force computers to update to the latest OS during zero touch. So many computers get shipped to us with old OS versions. I appreciate the feature request there. That's definitely on our board to look at. And we're evaluating our options there. It does require multiple backend services to handle that functionality. And here I'll point you at a really great episode of the Mac and Men's podcast with a PM from Jamp, who talked about the development of that feature and all of the different pieces that have come to mind. We're also kind of waiting for this to fully work in Apple space. So I was going to say, I think that it wasn't until macOS 14.4 that we really saw great performance from Apple during those update cycles. And so we kind of wanted to let others go first in this regard and be recognizing that our patch policy is going to cover some of those updates that need to happen just after the user logs in for the first time. So that's kind of how we've been approaching that matter, and we look forward to approaching those differently in future releases at JumpCloud. I see Headman.com points out that AI will not be in the EU for quite a while. I will be very interested to see how that goes. They have definitely said that this will not be in the EU. They did say that it will be supported with British English later this year, and targeted for South Africa and the UK and other English-speaking places outside of the United States in December. Not to mention the first additional languages will come later as well, so that this will be reported more than just in English. So I am excited for this to come out. I do think that Apple needs to solve some of their EU problems, and I hope that they do, because keeping this feature out of people's hands is a bummer. And I don't think that it's necessarily a place where the DMA has a lot of value or would provide a lot of interference. This just feels retributory in some ways. So.
Or maybe even a little bit lazy, because they can just release it here and they did, there are fewer concerns here because we don't have the laws that the EU does.
Well, and plus
release it as is.
In a lot of ways, this is their biggest market. And so if you want to experiment at some place where you're going to have the most impact, doing that here in the US makes a lot of sense. And it gives you a place to, build and refine. So, I think that is a place to go. So I think that building and shipping and refining and shipping and doing those things is really, really important. So,
yeah.
Awesome. We've also got Android 15 on the horizon that gets released by Google in about 3 weeks. And, we'll have a few new things for that as well. But I will say that testing is going incredibly well on the Android front. And so for those of you out there with Android devices, we'll be, supporting Android 15 on release day as well. Cool. What else should we talk about, Becky?
Sam is asking about OS patching. Will JC support iOS, iPadOS patch policies?
I will have a lot more to say about that in the new year. I was going to say there will be patch policies in the future for iOS and iPadOS. However, that does require a couple of key underlying technologies that we haven't built yet. So look for more in the future, but keep in mind that that is also meant for corporate-owned devices and not for user-enrolled devices. And so for organizations that are paying for phones and tablets for their people, we will be able to support that in a future release of the product, but I can't talk to dates at this time. So that's definitely on a roadmap, though. Cool.
Cool.
I was
So
going to
what
say,
else
I think
did
we've got
you?
some news as well.
I think you should go for it.
Awesome. Well, I was going to say we definitely have some stories out of CISA this week. That's the Center Cybersecurity Internet. Excuse me, I can never pronounce their name correctly. It is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency here in the U.S., and they are one of the different places out there that helps organizations from the governmental perspective keep on top of some of their worst security problems. And they did announce that Cisco has released security updates for iOS and iOS XE, and those are the internet operating system, not the iOS like the Apple operating system. This goes on the routers and of the world to help deal with some things. There are some, this is the semi-annual Cisco release for these kind of security updates. So please definitely go take a look at that. We'll have the link in the show notes here directly to the CISA release, as well as, and that leads on to the Cisco release. There are multiple CVEs rated 8 or higher. And I think that the last count that I saw was 8 for high, as well as 4 more for medium for your Cisco routers. So if you've got those in your network stack, now's a really great time to get those applied and schedule your downtime to make sure that happens. And then the other announcement came from, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, which is part of the Australian Signals Directorate. That's the Australian equivalent of CISA, for example. There are some really, really great docs that CISA and ACSC worked on together to provide some good guides on how to detect and mitigate Active Directory compromises. Your AD controller in your Windows environment, if you have that on-prem still, is still super critical to the security of your organization and would have widespread effects on your organization if it were to be compromised. Detecting those compromises is super tricky. And so I'm really excited that this guide is out there. There's a whole bunch of information here as well, in terms of detecting and mitigating those Active Directory compromises. This one's definitely a great thing to read. I mean, it's not light reading, and it is more than 60 pages, but it's really thrilling to kind of see places, government organizations actually say, all right, here's how you tell if you've got a problem. And to be able to have that not just from the vendor, not just from a government, but multiple governments working in concert, gives you a lot of real IT help here. So if you're looking after an Active Directory environment still, is a great time to reevaluate some of your strategies. Take a look at some of the detections techniques that are present in this guide. And I will say, as long as the guide is as heavy as the guide is, it's readable. It was clearly written by people who understand a lot of these technologies and understand a lot of the different, kind of compromises that are out there, and helping you understand those. This is one place where I feel like the security community has done an incredible job in cultivating writers. They've cultivated people with voice, and they've cultivated people with real ability to communicate. And that is a really clutch part of having that security environment. So,
Yeah. And if you're not already like regularly checking the CISA site, you should, because they have a lot of great alerts and things like that regularly. Like there have been several this week. There are others about Citrix and industrial control systems advisories, exploited vulnerabilities. I think we talked about one last week, but there's another one this week. So definitely they go into detail about these things. Like if you just look at alerts and cybersecurity advisories, just those alone, there's a lot of really good information. And they talk, they refer regularly to the NVD database, the NVD dashboard and things like that. So they'll refer to any CVEs that have been released and things like that. So be checking both of those, by the way, regularly. I hope you are. But I just think it's neat how they go about going into more detail. Like when you're looking at the NIST dashboard, it's detailed, but CISA just has a lot of additional things going on that you won't see on the NIST site.
Yeah. Well, speaking of NIST, there's a great story that's in here that I'm really, really
Mhm.
excited about. And, this is a, story that's in Ars Technica that covers a major change that NIST has. And of course, NIST being the National Institute for Standards and Technology, they are the people who write a lot of the government, docs around password controls and security controls in the space. You might be familiar with such publications as NIST 800-53, which governs a standard called the R5 moderate standard that covers a lot of security settings and environments. And of course, they also govern NIST 800-171, which is for federal contractors. But there's a lot of Venn diagrams here that are overlapping. And of course, special publication 800-63-4, it just rolls off the tongue when they call it that instead of the one that's like, hey, this is the one that we care about for passwords. And of course, having this story out here is super nice because what it gives you to point to is that there is now a second public draft of this document, which has everything to do with digital identity guidelines. It's a massive document. It's a novel. It's 35,000 words, but two very specific words are really, really important to me personally because they govern password policies. And they basically say that you shall not require rotation of passwords. That means password resets on a regular cadence may be a thing of the past. And so, take a look at some of the big pieces here, but the big terms like, there are a whole bunch of different governmental contracty words. My favorites are the shoulds and the shalls and the shall nots. Those are the big standards that determine, because they have legal contractual meanings here. And so, there are a series of things that, are super important. So verifiers and CSPs, which are like the people who are, determining, who are like Jump Cloud, for example, who are determining whether or not your password is any good. They shall require passwords to be a minimum of 8 characters in length and should require passwords to be a minimum of 15 characters in length. They should permit a maximum password length of at least 64 characters. They should accept all printing ASCII characters in the space character in passwords. That's for folks who use passphrases. And so you could type a phrase instead of, just a set of, characters. They should accept Unicode characters and passwords. That could be emoji. You could have an all emoji password if you wanted to. Each Unicode code point shall be counted as a single character when evaluating password length. And of course, they shall not impose composition rules requiring mixtures of different characters for passwords. So you no longer need, a number, a letter, a character, and a special or any number of things. You should, at this point, you should do those things, but you don't have to have composition rules. You shall not require users to change passwords periodically. However, verifiers shall force a change if there's evidence of compromise of the authenticator, so that if they think you've been hacked, they can make you change your password, but they're not going to make you change it on a schedule. I love this
Yeah,
change, the shall not versus shall here. This is fantastic.
exactly. And one of the reasonings was that the composition and the force change, 30 to 90 days, actually people make their passwords weaker when you do that. So it's actually a bad practice to do that, because when you force people to do it like every 60 days, they're going to use like a version of that same password, and over time it
Over
just
and
gets
over and over
weaker.
again.
It gets weaker.
That's right. So really excited to see this change. Super excited to see what this means for everybody. And I think that this one's, of course, we're not all the way there yet. These drafts have to be they're subject to comment periods. They're subject to federal review. We're not done yet, but this is a great, step forward. This is the first time they've actually recommended this particular document carry that particular change. So very excited for that.
Now, how do you convince your security team to actually
Well, it's a
make
balancing
this
game, right?
change.
Like, and so, I was going to say every now and again, of course, here at Jump Cloud, we do have a periodic change because we're subject to some controls that require that of us. And so now, every time I meet with Bob, you've seen Bob on the podcast before. Bob's a really affable guy, or Bob's been on the broadcast before. Bob's our CISO, and every once in a while, I say, "Hey, Bob, can we not change passwords every 90 days, please? Pretty, please." And then he says, "We're closer." But I've definitely encouraged all of my coworkers to send the update to a NIST 800 to -64-4 to him so that they he's aware. I think he's going to be just fine. This is a place where talking to your people helps. Bringing up your concerns. Know that they won't act immediately. Know that it's a gradual process that takes time, especially if you have change controls. So talk to people about it. Talk to your people about this one. And this one is strong. I strongly recommend that.
Yeah, congrats, Sam, on getting that to work for you. That's awesome.
I love that. That's fantastic. Once again, my chat bar has frozen, so everybody could be talking trash about my presence here, and I would not know. I would be none the wiser. I don't know
No.
what's going on with Crowdcast today. It's having a rough day.
Yeah. And then Kelly's saying she just discovered that NIST has a whole section of their site dedicated to checklists. Repository. Nice. I have to check that out. And okay. We've got another one about any comments on the current CUPS CVE and how macOS with CUPS web interface is affected or not.
CUPS does not ship with the web interface active today. I was going to say you have to turn it on. It's a setting that you've needed to turn on for a couple different versions. I believe they made that change first in macOS 12. Which, by the way, here we are at the end of September. If you still have systems on macOS 12, now is time to retire those systems. They will not be supported by, we will not consider that to be an operating system that we test on beginning at the end of the year this year. So we will be 13, 14, 15 as of 1 January 2026. So 2025. So keep that in mind. There aren't many of you left. We already have more systems on macOS 15 than we even do on macOS 13. So keep that in mind. But we do try to deprecate support for older operating systems when it makes sense to do so. And right now that means when they haven't gotten security updates in quite some time. So Apple again does not ship with the CUPS interface active. So I was going to say, as long as you're keeping that CUPS in, we're still obviously paying attention to the news and talking about these things more clearly. But I was going to say we'll have a statement, probably in the next couple of weeks about this. But generally speaking, this isn't necessarily something that Apple folks have to worry about unless you're turning the CUPS interface on purpose, and probably for good reason. I definitely wouldn't recommend exposing it to the internet more broadly. But again, that's not something that generally happens. So count this one as interesting, but maybe not interesting bad.
Awesome. Looks like James got rid of the password policy and they have MFA on everything. All right, James, another one that has managed to do this. Ross says bribe the security team with swag. Oh, goodness. Sam says, been asking for years. So I guess it took a long time to finally get them to say yes.
Well, it hasn't been the thing that, folks say, this hasn't been a shall for a long time. This has been maybe a should or should not. But now that we're getting to shall not, it feels like we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. So see, Rob is talking about you since you can't see the chat. Can you see it on screen when I put it on there?
No.
You can't even see it on the overlay?
Nope. My overlay is broken.
Wow.
So.
Oh no, so it says we finally kicked Tom out of chat. Good riddance.
Finally, a moderator has had some effect on me. So
yep,
even if it's the great moderator in the sky.
Okay, and then this is along CUPS. Rob says an admin putting the CUPS web UI on a WAN interface is a special kind of admin.
Yes, that is true. That some, this definitely seems to be a situation where I would say play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And, definitely hasn't been recommended that you do that for quite some time.
Yeah. And Jonathan is curious, what portion of your user base just can't figure out MFA?
That's a really great question. I think that's a great question for everybody to have inside their own organization. I mean, I would say that, I don't think that we have a ton of problems there, but again, I'm not on the help desk. I can't tell you how many people have had to reset their MFA credentials in the recent past. So I was going to say it's definitely not a technology that is perfectly seamless, but that's also why we spend a lot of time on Jump Cloud Go, right? Because, I was going to say that is a really great experience that is seamless all the way home. And it's the most secure way to log into anything at Jump Cloud, because there's no password to be intercepted. There's no possible phishing to have happen with that interface. And so that's a place where we don't need to have a setup process. It's really just a one-time registration. So, I was going to say this is one place where that satisfies the definition of MFA with user verification. And so, I think that is a really important part of how Jump Cloud operates. And so, I was going to say this is definitely an opportunity. If you haven't yet looked at using Jump Cloud Go, do take a look.
Yeah.
It's really straightforward. And there's no messages to end users. You've just got to put a Chrome extension out there or an extension for the other supported browsers.
Definitely. Sam says Jump Cloud Go seems like a good solution. Smiley face. Or actually, that's a winking face. Wink, wink.
Oh, winky.
Yeah. And actually, it really is. We use it internally, and I'm telling you, not having to type that super long, complicated password with all those requirements in it, and just having to use, I'm on a Mac, so I just hit that fingerprint. It saves me time so much because I'm not constantly typing that in. And I mean this fully, that it helps so much because I can it says, use Jump Cloud Go, and I can say yes. And occasionally I have to re-authenticate if it's been, a certain amount of time. But most of the time it's just, I do use my fingerprint, and then all I have to do is say, use that to authenticate, and it does.
That's right.
Like
I was going to say, I have to type my password like every other day because Apple makes me. But that's the only time I have to type my password. Everything else is biometric. Everything else on my phone, for example, is almost always Face ID. The occasional PIN. But, the fact that we've got this really safe, standard for interaction is really great.
Yeah. Oh, and Sam says, as an org who just deployed this for MFA and conditional access, we are super impressed. Well, thank you for that, Sam. We're really glad to hear that.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. You have to pass that along to Scott, too. He'll do a little happy dance. But definitely reading these out loud so Tom can hear them, because I'm sad that you can't even see them on the overlay, because when I put them up on screen, the whole point is so you can see them, but also for our YouTube viewers so they can see them too. All right. With that, I'll put the rest of the news in the notes later. Just to tell you a little bit what they're about. Let's see. Embargo ransomware has escalated attacks to cloud environments. So be aware of that, because Microsoft is warning about that. There's some new ROMcom malware variant. Snipbot has been spotted in data theft attacks. And there's a Kia dealer portal flaw that could let attackers hack millions of cars. So you'll want to read about that too. Yeah, a group of security researchers discovered critical flaws in Kia's dealer portal that could let hackers locate and steal millions of Kia cars made after 2013 using just the targeted vehicle's license plate.
Oh, dear gosh. They've had so many problems here in DC. There was a program for a while that if you had a specific model Kia or a specific model Hyundai, the cops would just give you a steering wheel lock. They just give it to you. They'll be like, look, it's going to be way easier to give this to you and way cheaper than having to respond to all of the thefts of these particular models. He has had a really hard time. I definitely think that, between the steering lock issues, and it sounds like they don't have the best dealer infrastructure for this either. Maybe rethink a Kia.
If you watch The Lock Picking Lawyer, though, even those steering locks are.
I mean, the fact that you could pick it with a USB, like literally a USB cable end was all you needed to break to start the car. Like, I mean, that's the level of embarrassment. A steering wheel lock wouldn't defeat a like specific kind of thief, but like the casual thieves, though, that we were having in metropolitan areas like the DC area.
Oh, but I mean, you could break it so easily, though, like just jam something in there and pop it.
Yep.
So even a casual thief, I mean, my kid watches Lock Picking Lawyer, and he was talking about Kias and about those locks and how easy they are to break. So it would take like 30 seconds at most. So that's not going to be a deterrent either. So false sense of security, if you thought those were going to do anything to stop them. So Sam says Sam Curry has a great write-up on the Kia exploit on his website. Rob says LPL, lockpicking lawyer here. Today we're going to open a Kia using another Kia.
Fantastic. Well, friends, I've got to disappear. But thank you all so much. It's always a great pleasure to be on the IT Hour. And Becky, so great to see you today, friend.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming. Always a pleasure to have you. Open invitation. And thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye, friends.
Bye.